ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Lake Cities Podcast. I keep forgetting what we're calling this now.
That's the name.
It's the Lake Cities Podcast
Yes.
with Chris and Lucas because you're better looking than I am.
No,
so
my memory,
first.
man. My memory. Besides, I got it written down somewhere, right?
Yeah. Well, we are.
Love your beard.
We are, thank you very much. My wife is currently on the fence about it.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, because I've been growing it since. Well, here's the thing: I haven't been growing it since COVID. I've just stopped working on my look since then.
I hear you, brother.
So my belt's getting a little tighter, beard's getting a little longer, hair's thinning a little bit more.
You finally catching up with me then?
Yeah,
huh?
yeah, and I have been looking. You know how Facebook gives you those like suggested ads?
Yeah.
Right. It's finally like Rogaine and Hims and Keep It and all that stuff is finally popping up on mine, and I'm like, look, I don't need Apple to be looking on my camera at what's happening at the front of my face. So,
Wow.
It's okay,
Well,
I
it's,
get car ads.
yeah. Well, we are joined today by special guest Megan Rey, who is councilperson place 1 for the city of Lake Dallas. And we've got so much stuff to discuss with you, Megan. We are just infuriated with the things that are going on. And as the hard-hitting investigative journalist that we
Yes.
are, that's Chris, a.k.a. Brian Williams Respis. We're going to... First, thanks for coming on. We appreciate you coming
Absolutely.
on the
Thank
show.
you for having me.
And man, it has been a crazy month.
Yeah.
The last several weeks, I can't imagine being in your position. I know that you fielded a lot of complaints from concerned citizens,
Yes.
as well as figuring out who to shoulder the blame for some of this stuff, because everybody wants to blame. Well, it's the city government's fault. I don't have
Right.
water because it's the government.
Yeah.
And so a lot of that stuff got pushed on
Right.
onto you guys. But you have in recent weeks done a lot of research, and I want to start with this about some of the stuff that's going on with the Public Utilities Commission and the things that are happening with our power
Not
bills.
the Public Utilities
the good old
Commission.
PUC and ERCOT and all these organizations that most of us didn't know existed
Right.
until 2 a.m. on Monday morning
Yes.
a couple of weeks ago. So we were at my house, we were without power for 78 hours. So
Yep.
it
I'm right there
just-
with you.
Yeah,
I got my power back. I was at Thursday morning at 6 a.m.
yeah. So
Crazy.
so what happened?
Okay. So you can actually track this all the way back to 2011.
Okay.
Okay. So 2011, we had the big ice storm.
Right.
When the
I was in
ice was
Canada
like
when that happened.
The ice was like that thick on the streets.
Yeah.
So I had like 5 inches thick. You had the 2 tracks to drive down, and that was it. I literally burned out my transmission in my car
Oh
that year.
man, that was the year of the Super Bowl down here in Texas.
Yes.
I remember. I was living in Canada as a missionary, and it was warmer in Canada in January than it was in Dallas, Texas.
Yep.
And it was the first time that had happened. I think they said in like 150 years.
Wow.
Yes.
Which
Yeah.
I don't know how many people in Canada were tracking stuff, during the Lincoln administration, but apparently somebody was thinking about it.
Well, no, the last time I could track this back to where a big catastrophe event happened was in like 1983, I think it was.
Okay,
So,
so that's pre-me.
yeah.
Hey, man, you making me feel old.
That's BL. That's before Lucas.
So essentially what happened in 2011 after that storm, apparently there were some issues in parts of the state. So the state asked the federal commission to come down and look at our grid and say, what can we do to keep anything catastrophe like from happening?
Okay.
And they said, you need to winterize, insulate, winterize. We can't say this enough. This needs to be done. And I guess at that point, our Texas legislature and our governor and PUC, whoever was in charge in 2011, said, yeah, no thanks. And they just didn't do it. So then flash forward to our catastrophic power failure, statewide power failure.
Yeah.
It's absolutely ridiculous. And, so we have the Texas Railroad Commission, who is over the gas lines and the gas delivery.
Okay.
Those weren't winterized either. So they froze at the delivery point.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's why we had issues with gas.
Yeah.
So then you have the PUC and ERCOT. Okay. So ERCOT is literally over the load. That's all they are over is the power load. So they decide, 50 million kilowatts go to East Texas, 20 million go to the Panhandle, things like that.
Okay.
So
they also determine the reserve, right?
correct.
And so this is where some of the big questions that I'm going to let you finish talking about
Yes.
what ERCOT does, but I have a lot of questions based on several different
Yes.
articles and things I've read about this.
Right. So a lot of things happened that shouldn't have happened. So ERCOT was told by PUC that they needed to start rolling blackouts due to this event.
Okay.
Okay. So what happens when you do that? When you have uninsulated and unwinterized grids, is that when they shut the power down, what happens is you have a lot of issues in that they can't bring the power back up. Power shutting, you shut the power down over here and you might get electric bounce back, which blows out another station across the,
Right.
further down the line.
This is what happened in Jurassic Park.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
This is exactly
Yes.
what happened.
Yes.
Right? This is the hold on to your butts scene, and then they
Yes.
got to run across the park and get eaten by the raptors.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah,
So
I'm trekking.
Right. So the other thing that was an issue was at some point Texas decided that we didn't need our grid to be connected to the national grid.
Yes.
So the only parts of our grid that are connected to the national is in Far East Texas and Far West Texas, and that's it. All the rest of it's separate. So we can't join the power sharing program where when things like this happen, in order to keep us up and running, states will send us their reserve power.
Yeah.
And we share back when they have a problem.
Right.
So that is the whole ball
Okay.
of wax as to how it collapsed. And I understand I didn't probably explain it fully, but
That's the gist,
that
right?
is
Because there's
the
a lot of
gist.
little details that are a part of this.
Yes, Lord.
And one of the ones that kept consistently coming up, whether it was stuff that popped up on my news feed or in some of the news aggregates that I use, is that a lot of this went back to wind power. And so I've got some questions about one is the validity of what some of these statements were,
Right.
and the one that kept popping up and the one that I saw that seemed to have the most credence, and I'm coming to you to help me out on
Okay.
this, is that there was a decision made that Texas needed like 6,000 kilowatts of reserve power or something like that. And what was actually in the reserve was only like 4,000
Okay.
from the wind power. And that when the windmills stopped producing because they were frozen,
Right.
that is where one of the biggest breakdowns of all of that, because we had less power than what we needed to have in the emergency
Right.
to distribute.
Right. And that is
was sort
actually
of like just one of the many dominoes that fell, but that might have been
Right.
the first.
So I'm gonna use a term here that you see a lot on fact checkers.
Okay.
That's mixed.
Okay, yeah.
It's mixed truth and mixed
Right.
fakery. So what happened is yes, all that about the reserve power is 100% correct.
Okay.
Texas relies on solar and wind at 20%. So only
Okay.
20% of our power is actually solar and wind.
Right.
The rest is all, fossil fuel, coal, whatever.
Yeah.
So who's to know where that power reserve came from?
Okay.
First of all, there's no way to blame it on wind power, solar power, or, traditional.
Gotcha.
So that's part of the problem there. The other part of the problem is had they winterized and insulated and
Sure.
winterized, we wouldn't have had frozen windmills. And the reason I know this and can state this for a fact is because Russia just opened
Man. It always comes back to Putin, doesn't it?
Yes.
Well-
It's always Russia.
It's
Yes,
always
it-
Russia. But they just opened a wind farm above the Arctic Circle,
What are they, like insulated with bear pelts or something?
apparently, and oiled with bear grease.
In Russia, the wind farm insulates you.
Yes,
That is Siberian
that's right.
tigers and
And
stuff.
they did. They just opened a huge wind farm above the Arctic Circle, and
Wow.
it was announced the second day of our crisis.
Okay. Well, how about that?
How about that? Maybe we don't have a Home Depot card. Maybe is that what it is?
Where's Homer at? Bringing his orange buckets around trying to de-ice stuff.
Right. So that, in a nutshell, is the story of how that is mixed true and false.
Okay.
So you can't blame it on wind power. I do know that our own governor put out that this was what the Green New Deal would look like. We don't have that.
Right.
It was voted down.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have even been brought up. Wind power wouldn't have failed had we been proactive.
Yeah, if we would have used the bare pelled insulators.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, and then kept enough in the reserve, right?
Yes.
I mean, the reserve is there for a reason. We've got, if you look at our budgets, there's a little something over on the side, the rainy day fund that says, what, if something happens and we don't have a way to make the bills, that's what this account is for. And so when you deplete that savings account, then eventually, what's the old saying?
It bites you in the bottom.
Yeah. Yeah, when your what is it? When your outgo exceeds your income, then your upkeep becomes your downfall.
Yes,
right, and that's essentially what happened in that realm. Okay,
essentially, what you're really looking at is a failure. This could be literally considered a failure of government.
Okay, because
the government regulates all of this. When I use the term regulate, I don't mean they put down laws and they oversee all of it.
Gotcha.
So when your government...
And that's where ERCOT comes in, right?
That's where, yes.
Okay.
That's where ERCOT and the PCU comes in. Because the PCU is over electric and water and phones.
Okay.
And Railroad Commission is over gas.
Gotcha.
And, then ERCOT is under the PCU.
Okay. So I've always wondered what the Railroad Commissioner did, right? Because I see, like, at 6 a.m. when I'm going to the gym, if I don't hit it at the right time, like I get stuck behind the railroad. Right. And that is, in my mind, I'm like, so that's the jerk that keeps me, that makes me 10 minutes late to my workout. But that responsibility is a lot more than that, especially when it comes to
I honestly
gas.
Don't know exactly what, the scope of the Railroad Commission is actually quite broad.
It's more than just the choo-choos.
It's more than just the choo-choos.
Okay.
And I think he doesn't even preside over the choo-choos. He presides over the infrastructure.
Gotcha.
So, because if you look on your gas pumps when you're pumping gas in your cars, there's a statement from him on there as well.
And the Texas Department of Agriculture and all that's in there. Yeah.
Megan, I got a question for you. So
Yes,
let me play, I'll say devil's advocate. What do you say?
Dum.
I know it's terrible. What do you say? What do you say to the person who says, "Well, this this kind of event was unforeseen. I mean, we can foresee it getting cold. We can see the temperatures dropping, but all 254 counties, right? This is just a one-off, right?
Okay.
It's so unique. So, is it really a failure?"
Well, but see, it was predicted.
Okay.
The weather was predicted. They told us for, I think, what was it, a week before that the weather was coming in. Now, none of us regular folk really probably realized it was going to be that detrimental.
Sure.
Yeah. And I think in Texas, we've kind of been trained not to believe the weatherman.
We have.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Because the weatherman has been saying, we're going to get snow in February for the last, 7 years.
Yeah.
And it doesn't happen.
Well, and the last freezing event did happen in February.
Yeah.
And I only know this because it popped up on my timeline. so
Your memories.
Check out your memories. Here's your freezing event. Yeah. So we do have extreme weather in Texas, whether that be in the summer or in the winter. And some years it just remains mild. And, the mild years in the winter specifically happen more often than not. But you can guarantee that we will eventually have an extreme. And, as things become extreme, we can start to expect power outages not only in the winter, but in the summer too. If they don't fix these systems, we will start seeing this more and more, kind of like California does.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so...
And that's good. Because...
That's not good.
Well,
California's
good.
not good.
No. In terms
if you're from California, welcome to Texas. We're happy to have you here.
Yeah,
right. Come on.
Yeah. Well, good in the sense that you're that this is, being made clear and known.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because I'll be honest, I'm from North Carolina, and, I was thinking, it's cold, but I'm saying, I've seen this, right? This should not have happened, and I just couldn't put my mind around it. And I appreciate, you kind of unfolding this in a way that people can grasp it, because I just would not have ever expected that at home.
No, not at all.
No, I mean, it's like the first day the power was out, I slept in my room, and I think one of my kids slept in there. My mom slept up in her room. But by the second day, it was like, we need to reserve body heat. We need to. Yeah. We all piled in one room. Yeah. We shoved towels under the doors, and I actually went out to the street and turned my water off. Mm-hmm. We didn't even turn it on till Sunday to give the pipes time to thaw.
Yeah.
So I got lucky there. But then the vacant house next door, their water was on, and their pipes busted and flooded my bedroom.
Man.
So.
Goodness.
Yeah. So I mean, it's 6 one, half a dozen another. You can prepare, and everybody should prepare. You should have a little, water in reserve. I think it's a gallon per person per day for like up to 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You need to have some reserve food. You need to have emergency flashlights. You need to have that stuff.
Right.
I mean, it's not even just about power outages here in Texas. We have tornadoes.
Right.
If you're down south, you have hurricanes. There's all kinds of weather events that I wasn't prepared, so I don't want to lecture people about being prepared because I wasn't, but it was definitely a learning experience.
Yeah,
for me.
and the preparation that you're talking about is not like those folks that were on that Discovery Channel show where you got to go into the basement.
Oh, yeah.
They got
No.
they got
12 years of potted meat.
potted meat.
No.
You want Spam and eggs? We got you covered for the next 12 years.
That's it.
Now, am I going to tell you it's bad to have a go bag? Absolutely not. Go bags are great, but I'm not telling you to be an extreme prepper.
Right, but a couple of cases of water and a few cans of refried beans, probably not a bad thing to have around the house.
You can actually everything that you need for about 2 weeks, with the exception of the water, because that takes up a lot of space. You can actually put in like one of those bigger totes.
Yeah.
And slide it over in your garage. Check the dates on the food in there every once in a while, and you should be good.
Yeah, you got it if you need it.
Yeah.
And the one thing about Texas is it's going to get hot again.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
And so you may not, on even with something as unique as this, my friends from back home were teasing me because 2 days later it was like it never snowed.
Right.
So you're just trying to hold on,
And once the gas lines thawed out, it was like, oh, everything's working now.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yep, and it's kind of like the statement about Texas. You don't like our weather? Wait 5 minutes.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
And that is absolutely the truth. We have day and night weather here. It could be blistering hot in the morning, cool and raining in the evening, especially in the fall and spring. So, I mean, summer, you can count on it being boiling. In the winter,
but you need to prepare. I mean, but that's huge,
though.
I mean, don't take it for granted.
Right.
Yeah.
And it does almost seem a little bit like hubris was what got us in trouble.
Yes.
Because if it happened in 2011 and we got the warning and then we were like, you know what? This hasn't happened here in 150 years. People it's like what's that King Hezekiah said? The Babylonians came to him and he took them all throughout the temple.
Oh, yeah.
And then Isaiah was like, bro, all of your people are going to die now because of it. He's like, well, there's going to be peace in my lifetime, so I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
That same kind of thing. Well, then, we'll make some notes, and then if they want to do it, in 2120, then that'll be fine. And yet, here we are 10 years later, and we find ourselves in the same situation.
Exactly.
So, because of this winter weather and the big weather that we got, there have been a lot of fluctuating power bills. and if you weren't one of those people that was locked in on one of those like consistent bill plans or something like that.
What is it? The locked in rate. I can't remember the term they use. Fixed rate.
whether it's a fixed rate plan or something like that. Then you found yourself, or a lot of people found themselves in a place where they were not able to financially handle the bill. What happened there? Because getting like a 7,000 or one guy down near the Woodlands actually took a picture of an $11,000 power bill.
Yeah, there was a $17,000 bill that a veteran received.
Oh my goodness.
And the people, we actually had a gentleman here in town that got caught up in that.
Okay.
So that particular company was called Griddy, Griddy. Okay. I don't think it happened with any of the other companies.
Yeah, it didn't. I'm with the Matthew McConaughey company, and it didn't happen with us.
You can rely on Reliance.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So J.J. Watt and Matthew McConaughey they keep my house
right. I have TXU, but I also have the fixed rate, so I'm good there. But I'm not really sure what happened with that, and I haven't been able to get really any answers on that. My understanding now is that that particular company is decommissioned through the state of Texas, and they
Okay.
and they're getting sued by the state.
Oh, no joke.
And as a matter of fact, the Dallas County judge came out and said, y'all don't pay your bills. Y'all refuse to pay your bills. And I don't disagree with him, because to me, that is that's kicking a dog while he's down. That is taking advantage of people. And that makes me sick personally.
Yeah.
So, I think that if your bill is normal, like my bill was a normal bill for February, I'm going to pay that, that I should pay that. But if you have one of those outrageous bills, I know that the gentleman that I talked to said his was pegged at $9 a kilowatt hour for the 2 weeks.
Whoa.
That storm was predicted. So
that's $30 to have the lights on, man.
Yeah.
Bro.
So
just to turn it off and on, and it's like, there's $30.
Yeah.
My mom used to yell at me for opening up the back door
Bruh,
too many
come
times.
on, man. Oh, man.
yeah. So I think that decommissioning made it easier for people not to pay them.
Yeah.
But I think at the same time, I think that we all need to be vigilant. And the lesson learned there is don't go with a variable rate plan.
Correct.
Yeah.
Stick with a fixed rate plan. Obviously, shop around for the best plan.
Sure.
And go with that. Whether that be Reliant, TXU, or many of the other 5.
Encore, whomever else.
Yeah.
Right.
Provide.
And so speaking of Encore, what took so long for the power to come on in Lake Dallas? Because it's not very often that we make the news. We make the news typically for 2 reasons.
Wait, we made the news?
We did. We made the news because our power was one of the last to come on in North Texas. So I was alert. I had people from around the country that were sending me stuff, and they're like, "Hey, we heard that south, or where you guys are at, just north of Dallas, doesn't have power. Where are you at?" I've got friends from Canada
Holy
and
cow.
on the East Coast. They were asking specifically about that because Lake Dallas was one of a few cities that was mentioned, and so I'm curious, because typically if we make the news, it's because one of our Lake Dallas high school graduates is playing in the Super Bowl.
Right.
Right. That's why
Exactly.
we're on the news.
Yeah.
Because we had some stellar athlete that came from one of our great programs that is now trying to get a ring.
Yep.
Exactly. Well,
And now we're making the news because residents are 48 hours, and now they're at 70 hours. I think at the end of it, we got power back at hour 78 at our house. Yeah. So why was it that, as much as you can tell us, that it took so long for us to get power when we're watching everybody around us, their houses are all lighting up, right?
Right. Okay, so I honestly don't have an answer to that.
Okay.
What I can tell you is that and I absolutely adore him, Judge Andy Eads. He's our county
great
judge.
Guy.
He is a great guy. He set up meetings for council members, mayors, city planners, all the different people. It was not just so that we could, yell at Encore. Obviously, that was part of it. And I actually wanted to ask them about the 70% rate hike, but I took the mic and I went left.
Yeah.
I was actually not very nice because I was exhausted.
Yeah.
But needless to say, they didn't really give us an answer.
Really?
No, they danced. They kept sending people like, okay, so we're having this issue in North Texas, and people's power's coming on over here, over there, over here, over there, and they kept sending like their PR people that deal with the legislature in Austin, like they would even know.
Yeah, I know that the city of Lake Dallas at one point issued a statement that said Andy Eads had demanded an answer, that the next day he was going to be talking to people, but that CoServe, which partners with Encore, hadn't gotten an answered phone call from Encore or a return phone call in days.
That's true.
Meanwhile, they're trying to, they've got a group of people that they're responsible for as well that are pulling from those areas. So they were just...
Well, the difference between CoServe and Encore is CoServe's customers, more of their customers were able to keep their power more consistently than Encore's customers. So I'm not really even clear as to why that happened. It was
Maybe
very
they had
frustrating.
a few more bear pelts that they just started throwing down around those lines before Encore got there.
Absolutely.
Moral of the story, keep some bear pelts on hand so that you keep the power rolling. Yeah, it's just been the last few weeks have been crazy, and I know we're getting questions. We have, and if you need help, I know that our church and Pastor Chris's church both have benevolence funds set up in order to help people,
Right.
Because we looked at it and we transferred a little bit of extra money over in there because we knew that there were going to be people with high power bills, or there were some reports of some people, and you can if you feel like somebody's price gouging, whether your power company or your plumber or whoever, report them to the Attorney General.
Right.
It's easy to do.
Absolutely.
The response is pretty quick, but we had some people that a plumber in particular helped out one of our congregates.
Right.
And he said he was going to be there on a Thursday, didn't show up, ended up showing up Friday morning. And they had asked him, they're like, what's your normal rate? And he goes, $165 an hour. Normally, what you're talking about here for your house, their entire downstairs is flooded because of an exterior pipe that had burst in the wall and then had flooded the downstairs of their house. So he said normally it's like a 2-hour job. So they're thinking about, this is going to be like $300.
Right.
$1,250 later, after 40 minutes of work,
What?
he hands them the bill. Right. And then he's like, well, and obviously they're balking at it.
Of
They're
course.
like, you said $165 an hour. You were here for 40 minutes. And he's like, yeah, well, this is probably going to be a FEMA emergency or disaster area. So this is it. You can claim it on your insurance and they'll figure it out. But there's a lot of people charging $3,000 for this repair instead of, $1,250. So I'm really cutting you a good deal. But he's not the only one that we've heard these kind of stories from.
No, it's typical.
Yeah.
I will tell you, because I deal with insurances a lot.
Right.
Through my job.
Yeah.
And I hear these stories from insurance agents all the time. And, we have, my job has a set fee and we charge that regardless of if, I'm charging the insurance or I'm using your membership or, we have a set rate and that's it.
Yeah.
And we don't upcharge just because we're charging insurance.
Yeah.
So when a boat goes down and we salvage the boat, that's our charge. And it is pricey. I'm using a really bad example because it is expensive.
Well, if you got a boat, everything that goes on with that, but that
break
boat
out another $1,000.
Yeah, that's it. That boat is like my Harleys, right?
Yeah.
If you want to do anything, it's $200 to it. So there's a good reason that a lot of them are just real pretty in a garage.
But that is true.
And well, that bass boat looks great. Yeah,
Amazing.
and as soon as gas prices get under 75 cents,
but that's essentially that should be stopped. There should be something there that does not allow that. There should be a mechanism,
right?
Because that is to upcharge people like that, and then I'll just put it on your insurance. Well, that increases their insurance rates too.
Yeah, and this didn't even for this particular couple. The sad thing about it, if that guy would have charged them $3,000, it wouldn't have mattered. Their deductible was $3,000, so they're out of pocket for
was
that.
His bill.
Yeah. And it's just crazy how people are taking advantage of that situation. But if you do feel like that was price gouging, whether on your power bill or in anything else, make sure that you can contact the city and let them know, the Better Business Bureau, as well as the Attorney General's office. We'll get us caught up. We got a wrap here in just a few minutes, but get us caught up on some of the stuff that is going on at City Hall. Now, this will air on Thursday the 4th, so you guys will have gotten out of a special session that's been called for this Wednesday, and we don't want to get into everything that's going on there. But y'all are having to meet via video to make a lot of your decisions and do those things now. What do you see in the coming months as the newest, like the most exciting things that are going to happen in Lake Dallas? And what are you most looking forward to for the city of Lake Dallas moving forward?
Well, that's actually a really good question.
Thank you.
over
star for this
over
interview.
here, flexing my brain muscle.
Put my blue ribbon on my bear pelt.
So I do know that council is looking forward to normalizing everything and getting off the Zoom council meetings,
right?
Because it's annoying.
Yeah.
It's time. I mean, it's time for things to start, in my opinion, to get back to normal.
Was it March 10th is what Governor Abbott said
Wednesday.
earlier today? Yeah, the next Wednesday that we may be able to go back to full capacity on everything and no
because
masks.
everybody's getting their...
Yeah, that everybody will, the state will be opened back up.
Okay. Well, then there you go. There's something to look forward
Yeah.
to, which means that we can start having our events again.
Yeah.
Which was greatly missed, and to the upset of not only council, but a lot of the citizens in town. That was the most disappointing part, was not being able to have our 4th of July, our Mardi Gras, our Christmas, because that's like the best. That's the best. Everybody
Right.
gets together. We all have a good time. So there's that. If Governor Abbott's going to release the reins on the 10th, then that means we can start planning 4th of July. Yay!
Hey, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think we should do it up this year.
Yeah, that last 4th of July made me so sad.
Oh, and it
Because there are so many people that watch from our parking lot. And so normally on the 4th of July, our parking lot is full of people, and we bust out the cotton candy machines and the
Right.
icing machines, the popcorn maker, and we're just, handing stuff out. We're having a
Right.
great time. And nothing happened this year.
Yeah.
I know.
It was so sad.
It was like a little empty spot, right? I mean, and then you have to look at the businesses and how it's hurt the businesses.
Sure.
I mean, like Later Gators. I don't know
Yeah,
if they're
Russ
going to
and,
recover.
Russ and Julie Behavior, they sold their truck, but they've been giving out free meals in conjunction with Joe's Bait Shop and the Linnywood
Yes.
Bakery. They've
done
gotten
a
together.
really good job.
Oh yeah, those three, and Russ and Julie have been making some of the old Later Gator meals to give out, and some of
Awesome.
them have just been absolutely amazing.
Well, of course.
that guy's crawfish etouffee is something.
Oh, my goodness.
bro!
Oh, man.
I
Have
can't.
you not had it?
I have not.
Yeah,
I
I'm gonna have to
haven't.
start wiping my mouth.
Man,
I'm gonna get
listen.
drooling on this microphone.
Oh, they've got the
their
only
stuff's
fried gator
incredible.
I'll eat.
Oh,
The
it's
first
so
time I
good.
had it was at the state fair, and it was like, why does this taste like dirt?
Yeah.
And then I ate theirs. She was like, no, you got to try mine. And then I ate theirs, and it was like, oh, my God, this is heaven.
Yeah, when we were
So-
giving out meals last summer during like the heart of the pandemic, they came and did a couple of meals for us, and their
yeah.
stuff is just unbelievable.
Well, it's disappointing. They're my favorite food truck, and I know
yeah.
I know them personally. So
Yeah.
I don't like what this has done, and I think that this whole thing could have been handled in a much different way to where it wouldn't have harmed our local businesses.
Yeah.
Or people like Julie and Russ, and or really anybody, because this has just been insane.
Yeah. Well, how do you see? Let's say that March 10th is the day that everything gets to open back up, and Governor Abbott's announcement goes off without a hitch. What do you see the recovery for Lake Dallas being like?
Well, that's a good question. I think that Lake Dallas, for the most part, and this is an assumption on my part because I have not been able to talk to a lot of our business people, but
Sure.
I think for the most part we have done okay.
Yeah.
I know that I tried to help. I tried to help Walters. Unfortunately, I didn't know it would be that involved.
Right.
But to change their permitting from a bar to an actual restaurant so that they could.
And they've got some great food.
Yeah. So they could do more.
Yeah.
Under the pandemic, but
Well, now as a Baptist preacher, I can go in there now because it's not a tavern anymore. Now it's a bar and grill.
yes.
You should have told me.
Well, I
We're
don't-
non-denominational, brother. I
Have
would have
they
gone in
changed it?
for you.
I appreciate that.
Have they changed it? Because I haven't.
But they just now that they're serving food, we've gone over there a couple of times
Oh, okay.
on the Sunday
Yeah.
afternoons to go get some food, and their stuff is great.
Well, I think they're still
Really good.
designated just a bar, like
Okay.
under their permitting and the TABC laws. I could be wrong. I would have to get with them, but I tried to make it to where we redesignated them.
Right.
You know what I mean? And because I was at the Dollar General and I heard a couple of the ladies that run the place, the manager, I think she's a manager, and one of the employees talking about it. And I literally was like, I couldn't help but overhear you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's those divine appointments, right?
Oh,
you
yeah,
got
that's
somebody
exactly.
in the right place at the right time
Right.
that
Who can do
knows,
something.
that knows how to
Yes.
navigate the
Exactly.
process. Yeah.
But, I didn't know how to navigate the process. I told them, let me
But
find
you
out.
figure stuff out.
I do. That's what I do.
Yeah,
I'm
you don't get a
researcher.
master's degree for not being
Come
able to
on,
figure
thank
stuff
you,
out,
thank you.
right?
Right.
Exactly.
So
I'm the only uneducated person at this table right
Whatever.
now.
I wouldn't say that.
Exactly.
But so basically what would have had to happen was they'd have to get a petition from everybody in town, which I think would have been easy enough to do. 'Cause
Right.
Everybody loves them.
Yeah.
So they'd have to get the petition. Then it would have to go on the ballot. And that was where the problem came in, because there wasn't enough time to get them on the ballot. And I think then, and I tried to put them with John to get, the city manager to get all of that stuff, in line. And I just think there wasn't enough time. And then it kind of fizzled out.
And so much was going on so quick with all that. But they've got a great menu and are doing some awesome things. I'm so glad to see that there's a lot of the businesses on Main Street and on some of the little offshoots that are doing great.
Oh, yeah.
I know what is it called now? Do It Best Hardware over in Lake Dallas, which has been ace, and a couple of other things.
Yes.
They have been setting records this year because, like everybody else's wife, mine has had me building chicken coops and all kinds of other stuff, which I was like, I don't even know. It's great. So if you hear at 6 a.m, don't come to my house because I'm at the gym. Just
hiding.
Yeah.
Send you an email?
You're allowed to just take that chicken. You can just have it. Whichever one's making the noise, you can have that chicken. I don't want them anymore. But it's been a crazy year. Megan, thank you so much for your leadership in the community. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And for the information that you brought today, there are some midterm elections that are coming up in May. So make sure that you are keeping abreast on everything that's going on there. Do some research. Check out the voter cards and who believes what. There are a couple of websites set up where some of the candidates are actually having some open forum discussions on Facebook. So make sure that you're looking at those things. Man, it's been a pleasure. Thanks so much for coming on with us.
Thank you for having me. I always enjoy it.
We enjoy it too.
Well, hey, Chris.
Hey.
That's it. That's all I got. Okay. Hey, thank you guys for listening to the Lake Cities podcast with Chris and Lucas, and we will see y'all next week.
See ya.
Chris and Lucas want to thank you for listening to the Lake Cities podcast, a service provided by FBC Lake Dallas and Antioch Christian Fellowship. If you have a topic you would like for Chris and Lucas to discuss, email them at thelakecitiespodcast@gmail.com. Make sure you give us a review and click on the subscribe button to get the latest episodes each week.